Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Inner Experience, a podcast where we talk about self improvement within the context of friendship. I'm Nirel.
And I'm Amanda.
And today we're going to be talking about friendship, connection, lack thereof, loneliness. But first, Amanda, how have you been?
I have been busy working, and then as soon as I stop working, I'm like, wow, I have nothing to do. So,
So thriving.
actually, I did just hang out with a girl that I met on Bumble BFF who watches our podcast, and that was fun. So,
What'd you guys do?
we got wine and I got an espresso martini, so I recently discovered orange wine and I recently discovered espresso martinis. Um, well, I knew about espresso martinis, but I was always like, oh my God, it's so basic. I can never drink that. I'd be embarrassed. But I like coffee and I like cocktails, so there's really no reason for me not to drink them. And then I tried one and I was like, damn it, they're good.
I like
So,
them too, but I feel like I can't drink them right before bed, which is usually when you're out for cocktails. So
yeah, I did that. But we watched a horror movie afterwards, so I needed to be like wide awake for that.
I do.
Yeah.
Have you watched Sinners?
I have not. We watched this horror movie with Hugh Grant in it, which was just intriguing because he's usually only been in rom-coms
Mm-hmm.
historically. So I was like, wow, that's a shift. But he was good. I liked it. Sort of. I liked the first part of it. It was like a commentary on religion and how like different religions are really just not that different from each other. They're like different iterations of the same thing, kind of like board games and songs that like borrow from older songs and older games, things like that. So that was somewhat interesting.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
What have you been up to?
Well, it was just my birthday.
Right.
Um, just turned 27 a couple of days ago, and it was fun. I didn't really do much for my birthday, to be honest. I just like slept, got a lot of text messages, called my parents in the morning. I went to a happy hour with one of my friends at night, and yeah, it was just like a really chill day, cleaned a bit. I was very much feeling that vibe. Like I didn't want to plan anything. I didn't want it to be a big to do. I literally was walking around saying that I had nothing to do and no one to do it with. So, to the point of our podcast today
Well,
about friends and loneliness.
I'll be there next weekend and I'll do something with you. Yay.
Yay! It'll be fun.
I actually do have a question related to birthdays because I know that you
Oh,
like making very thoughtful, sentimental gifts for people. And that was something you did for me in college in particular. You'd make these like really elaborate gifts for my birthday. Like
mm-hmm.
one time it was this box. What was it? It was like a box with like cut out
Letters?
flowers. No, there was the
Oh,
letters gift. Then there was another gift that was like you were like describing all of the qualities that you liked about me and you put them on cards, I think, right?
I
And then
don't recall which gift you're referring to be honest, but sounds like me.
yeah, you just made so many of them. No, yeah, then you made me the other gift with letters about like our friendship each month of that year, I think.
Yeah, I remember that. And I put like photos of us from each month that we had like taken on the front of the letters.
Yes. It was so
Even when I
sweet.
was
And
annoyed with Amanda, I still wrote it.
yes, we like weren't really getting along for like
Yeah, like
s-
yeah,
for
that
several
wasn't
of
the
those
best era of
months.
our friendship. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were like, God damn it. I have to make this gift. I have to finish it. And
Indeed.
you were like writing with anger, I think. But without
Yeah,
ever
I
kissing
still
them.
like I still like making sentimental gifts. I feel like I've gotten more into like buying sentimental gifts. Like I'll try to buy things that are really representative of our relationship in some way. Like recently, my friend who has two dogs that she's like obsessed with, it was her birthday, and we go on hikes together pretty much every Sunday morning, and we have had like a lot of fun and funny memories on those hikes. Like one time we went on a hike and we literally could not walk through without getting out like her pocket knife because it had looked so beautiful on it had looked so beautiful on like All Trails, the app, but they hadn't like cleaned it since COVID. So like everything was super overgrown onto the path, and we were like literally hacking our way through the hike. And we like referenced that a lot. So for her birthday, I got her two doggy toys that were related to hiking. One was a little mountain and the other was an axe to represent that time. So I feel that is kind of like the new iteration of my sentimental gifts. I'm not always sitting there writing out things, but I still try to make them, cute.
So like less craftsy than they used to be.
Yeah, and less time consuming, to be honest. But I think it depends on the friend. Because, for example, I bought those two toys and she never even picked them up. I offered multiple times to bring them to her and to take her out to dinner, take her out to drinks, give them to her. And that never happened. So I'm glad I did not spend a long ass time making her some elaborate gift for an entire year, only for her not to even get it. Hopefully, I'll find another
Wow.
friend with a dog.
That is not super appreciative. Sorry.
I wasn't thrilled about it, I'm not gonna lie, but here we are.
I was actually going to ask, does it bother you when your friends don't give you thoughtful gifts in return? Because I used to feel like, oh my God, I think Nirel gives me the best presents I've ever received. And I just couldn't like top it. I tried, sort of, but
Yeah, you also give really thoughtful gifts and like very cute. I feel like you give a lot of like cute gifts, like collections of trinkets kind of thing. I still have in my room, I'm sure you've seen when you came to visit, that little plaque that you got me in undergrad that said, what does it say? Like, you don't like breathing? No, what does it say? You know what I'm talking about.
no. Yeah, wait, what
You
does
have
it
some
say? Is
bad
it
habits, breathing is one of them. You have some bad habits, breathing is
right?
one of them, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, I
something
still
like
have
that.
that. I still have that. So
I was like, I can hear Norel saying this. It was
it's true. It's a
perfect.
good line. It's a good
Mhm.
line. So, but no, I just like, I'm a very sentimental person and I like creating things and crafting things for people I love, honestly. It's not really about receiving them so much. I'm a big words of affirmation person. I've been thinking about this recently because recently for my birthday, two people who I didn't expect to give me gifts gave me really thoughtful gifts. And I was super surprised because I feel like they've never said, or recently haven't said, I'm really glad we're still in contact, or I really appreciate having you in my life, or, you're such a good friend. So I didn't even really know if they considered us friends because words of affirmation is such a big thing to me that I don't necessarily associate love with other things. That's actually something I learned in our friendship because
What?
you're very service oriented, right?
Yeah, I would say acts of service and quality time are probably my top two because obviously I like words of affirmation, but I don't, I mean, maybe it's just because of bad experiences I've had, but I feel like over time I've started to value words less and less because if they're not accompanied by actions that prove that the person is telling the truth, then I'm just like, I mean, anyone could say anything. You don't necessarily mean it. Or you might
Hmm.
mean it in the moment, but then it doesn't have like lasting power. Like some
Hmm.
people are very fickle and they'll just say whatever comes to mind when they feel it and when they think it, but then they change their mind. And I'm a very consistent person. I feel like I won't say something unless I really mean it.
Hmm.
And like it can take me a while to get to that point where I like really care about someone because I'm a little bit slow to open up and I feel like I just generally don't like most people. Um but once I do care about someone, I care a lot about them. And I feel like my feelings don't easily change unless they reveal themselves to be like a shitty person. So I just never really expect someone to not be consistent in their actions. It's been hard for me to understand that some people are just like very flaky. And so I don't trust words as much, I think.
I would say that I'm a very consistent person too, but I'm also very transparent. So if I have conflicted feelings about something, and as you know, like I'm blunt, I'm honest. So if I have conflicted feelings about something, I will voice those conflicted feelings. And I've learned sometimes it's better not to because I give people whiplash by explicitly and strongly stating like the way that I feel in the moment. But there are multiple ways that I feel on different days. Does that make sense?
I mean, I think it's normal to have like conflicting emotions at the same time, but I just don't like when someone says something, like when someone makes a strong statement, especially about me or about our relationship, our friendship, and then seemingly very little time passes and their feelings change, and either they acknowledge that or they don't acknowledge that. Usually they don't acknowledge it, but I can just
Hmm.
tell based on their actions that they feel differently. And so over time, like experiences like that have caused me to trust people's words less and less.
Yeah, I remember learning that because in undergrad, yours was acts of service. My parents are actually both acts of service too, but I don't associate acts of service with someone loving me. I just associate it with them being a nice person. So I remember you used to edit my essays a lot, and obviously, like we both did, but I didn't realize that was something that you wouldn't just do for anyone. Like I thought you just liked reading essays. I was like, oh, this is nice. And I remember once you told me, like, no, I'm doing this because we're friends. I would just love editing. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Hadn't really considered that. And on the opposite side, I pick up a lot of people from the airport, like from LAX. If someone asks me if I can pick them up from the airport, if I know them, like they're a classmate that I'm on good terms with, and it's not super far away, I will. But then they'll call me their friend. And I'm like thinking in my head, we're not friends. Why are they thinking we're friends? And I was talking to my therapist about that. And she was like, because you pick them up from the airport. You're doing things for them that they would associate with friendship. But I don't associate it with that. I associate it with being a nice person. So I think
Yeah,
that's something that our friendship taught me.
yeah. Well, I do like editing generally, but I wouldn't like spend hours on someone's essay if I wasn't like friends with them, probably.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know. I think it depends on the person you're dealing with because some people are just very generous and they will help people because they like helping people, not necessarily because they want you to like stay in their life or they
Hmm.
think that you're a really important person to them. So I think like overall, I enjoy, like, I feel the most loved when someone spends time with me and when someone does things for me to make my life easier. But at the same time, it sort of shifts based on the person and how I know they act around other people.
Right.
Yeah. So, like, if I know that someone is just very generous generally, maybe an act of service wouldn't mean as much to me in that context.
Hmm.
So it can change.
Yeah, I think it's just easiest for me when I know what their love language is. And then I'll also ask the if they can play up the words of affirmation for me because it's important to me. You know,
Yeah.
that's the basis of our friendship, not just words of affirmation, but like, I guess this is the intersection of words and quality time, but we spend a lot of time talking to each other about interesting things. I think it starts to feel like, are we even friends if someone doesn't want to talk to me that much? You
Yeah.
know, or if when we talk, we're not really having an interesting conversation, it's just hi bye.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need someone to spend like every waking moment with me. And I think quality time is different than the amount of time that you spend with someone. Like,
Right.
you can just be in someone's presence all day, every day, and not really feel connected to them because you're just doing your own thing in the same room. Like,
Hmm.
having good conversations is very important to me, and like actually learning about each other and doing fun activities together and like living life together. So, or like if you have a long distance friendship, yeah, like talking on the phone or like texting is important to me. But at the same time, I do have some friends that I don't really talk to very often, and we just consistently meet up if we're ever in the same place, or we like plan trips so that we can see each other.
Hmm.
And I still feel close to those people. Like, I have one friend, or I have some friends who just really aren't very good at long distance communication, but I think if they show up for you in enough ways outside of texting and calling and that sort of thing, then it kind of balances out where you're like, okay, I still feel cared for and I still feel like they consider me an important person in their life. So,
I agree with that. When you say like they show up for you, what are you referring to?
well, like I have one friend that also listens to this podcast, but um she is not a very good texter, admittedly. She knows that about herself. She just, it stresses her out, and I just sometimes don't hear from her for a really long time. But when I had all these friend problems towards the end of law school, she was living in Oregon at the time, and she drove all the way from Oregon to Davis to go to my graduation and to like be there for me and support me when I was going through a hard time. And so stuff like that really meant a lot to me. And she'll tell me like, "Oh, you know, you're my closest friend from college, blah blah blah."
Hmm.
So even though like I'd prefer to talk more consistently, that doesn't like really impact our friendship to the point where like I don't feel like she's one of my closest friends anymore. But it's really like a holistic evaluation, I think. Because some people that I'm friends with or I used to be friends with, like they also aren't good at long distance communication, but there's not enough else that makes me feel like I can still be close to them.
Right. Like holistically, you can understand. Also, you can just kind of feel when a friend is a friend and when they're not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like the time that I do spend like around that friend, for example, like I always feel validated that like we are close, you know? It's just, and I consider myself a pretty intuitive person, so I think that I can generally tell like
Hmm.
how someone feels about me, to be honest. So, I think you just know.
I agree. I also think you just know whether or not it's useful to stay in contact with someone. Like I realized that especially during COVID. I think in the past, or like moving from high school to college, I really agonized over who I should try to stay in contact with and how, and was really trying to put systems in place in order to be able to make that happen. And obviously, people come in and out of your life. I didn't talk to one of my friends from my first high school for a while. And then I went to two high schools, I transferred. And then we reconnected later, you know? So no hard feelings if you don't necessarily stay in contact and then you get in contact again. But during COVID, I didn't feel that way at all. Like I have to cling to these relationships or I have to make these decisions. I just really felt like it was intuitive. The people that I was supposed to connect with, I stayed super close with, the people that kind of faded out of my life, you know.
Yeah. I feel like I've had some experiences where I was kind of clinging on to a friendship and I was putting more effort into maintaining the friendship than the other person, and it ultimately didn't work in my favor, and I felt very rejected. And so
Hmm.
now when I'm making new friends, I'm like almost hesitant to show that I care and to show that I want to spend time with the other person because of that like fear of rejection that is sort of instilled in me now.
Hmm.
And then sometimes I'm like, ugh, whatever, like I'll just ask them to hang out. And I try to push past that. And then when they respond well, I'm like, oh, like maybe sometimes, because I know that I'm not always the most expressive and not always the most effusive. And I don't always articulate how much someone means to me. And people have said that I come off like kind of aloof and like standoffish at first. And I don't always realize that. Like sometimes I think I'm being totally fine and I'm expressing interest, but then the other person just doesn't see that at all.
Yep, I recall this. I recall us walking out of the dining hall and this guy waving at Amanda, who she claimed she wanted to be friends with. And she just walked past him, didn't say anything, no wave, no smile, nothing. And I was like, hello, Amanda, why didn't you say anything? And she was like, I smiled. I was watching her face. She did not smile at all that entire time, even though this man literally said hi to her. So yeah, I recall that.
Yeah, see, that's like social anxiety, like, especially around people that I'm not very comfortable with. I just get really caught off guard when people talk to me sometimes. I'm just like, oh my God, like, I wasn't expecting that. I don't know how to react. And I think it's like a defense mechanism where I just kind of like don't want them to know that I'm nervous and I don't want them to know that I'm feeling self conscious or insecure. And so I just like remove all expression from my face and like put up a wall so they can't tell how I'm feeling.
Hmm.
And I need to stop doing that because I feel like bad experiences can really screw you over because I catch myself kind of like shutting down and not wanting someone to know that I care. But in reality, like the people that really like you for who you are, they'll want you to show interest in them because they'll
Hmm.
want to be around you. So they'll appreciate you actually showing interest.
Hmm. I think it's
Yeah.
fine to be guarded, though, if you've been hurt in the past by similar experiences. Like, I think that's a natural bodily and emotional response. I remember having a therapist once. I'd gone through, I believe, a breakup, but it might have been a friend breakup because I haven't even had that many romantic breakups. But I'd gone through a breakup and I was just like, I can't do it. I can't get back out there. Like, my heart feels completely closed. There's no way. And she was saying that that totally makes sense because, like, if you have an army that attacks your nation, you're not just going to leave the borders open. Like, you're going to shut down, close everything. You're just like, pull all stops. We got to recoup. We got to rebuild. And not even rebuild. We just got to, like, close in order to feel safe. And so I think it's fine to be guarded if you've had negative experiences in the past. And I think that just like the people that really like you will want you to show interest, I think the people that really like you will also show interest. So it'll make you more capable of like opening up.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of like an energy thing where, especially if you're an intuitive person, like you can tell after a while how you need to, like the amount of effort that you need to put in order to maintain the friendship. Like I think
Hmm.
at first it can be sort of trial and error because sometimes I'm hesitant to like ask someone to hang out or I'm like I don't want them to think I'm clingy. I don't want them to think that I want to spend too much time around them. But then I'll just try like asking them and I'll see how they respond. You kind of have to feel it out that way, and then you sort of get a sense of like how they interact with people that they enjoy and feel close to. I don't know. I was going to ask actually, we spent a ton of time together in college. Like, we were always together to the point where people were like, "Are you guys roommates?" And we were just like, "No, we're best friends."
That was before
This,
we were roommates.
yeah, that was before we lived together. And I feel like people kind of like questioned it a little bit. They were just like, why are they always together? And like,
Hmm.
this was something I noticed. CMC was a very white school, also.
Hmm.
Like, mostly white people. There were not very many black people, especially. But you had that, like, community of black people on campus. And I feel like some of them were like, why are you spending so much time with this white girl?
Bro, that still happens to me all the time. People are like, why do you have a white therapist? And I'm just like, okay. In case anyone's curious, there was exactly one black psychoanalytic therapist in all of the Bay Area when I was looking for a therapist that was over the age of like 50, which is my preference. And she was literally about to retire. So before people come for my throat, take into consideration these things. But also, I like plenty of white people. So
I
that's why
know.
I'm hanging out with them.
I feel like on the surface maybe I don't seem like I'd be like open-minded or something, or I don't seem like I could hang. I think once they got to know me, they were like, "Oh, okay, she's chill." Like, I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, you have a lot of like, I don't know, not only do you have a lot of black friends or a fair number of black friends, but also you have like dated a lot of people from outside of the US too, which I've never done. I don't know. Well, I associate it with being a lot of people.
A couple.
Maybe it was just a few.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I agree with that. I think at first people were kind of like, what's going on? Same with our personalities though. I think that people didn't necessarily think that we would get along because the way that we initially present is maybe pretty different, especially in college. You're a lot more shy and less social than you are now, I think. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think I can also seem very prim and proper, and I don't think you come off that way.
Oh, are you saying I'm not classy, Amanda? I'm just kidding.
No, but you know what I
I've never
mean.
wanted to be classy. Once some guy said I was classy and I literally got offended. So,
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, you dress more conservatively now than you used to, but like you said in our last episode, you did not wear pants for the majority of your life.
it's true.
Um, to the point where we were walking in downtown Claremont and this old woman was like, what did she say? She was like, do you have pants underneath that sweatshirt
Yeah.
or
Now
something?
she was racist, I think, because Amanda was also wearing shorts and she didn't say anything about that.
You could see my shorts though. You couldn't see your
That's
shorts.
fair.
But it was still rude. I agree. No need to be
Def-
commenting on people's attire. But anyway, yeah, I feel like on the surface we did seem pretty different, but I think people question the amount of time that we spent together, and I'm just curious if you think that our dynamic was healthy at that time and if that's the dynamic that you usually have with people that you're close to.
I think that our dynamic was healthy. I mean, obviously it worked. We're still friends. And I think that we spent so much time together because of shared interests. Like, not like we were forcing each other to consistently be around each other, even though we weren't necessarily doing something that we liked. Like, we were on the same track team. So we were together. We worked together. Like, you know what I mean? And we liked each other. But we also had our own friends, you know. Um, you had other friends on the track team and like friends at Scripps that I wasn't friends with. And then I also like had friends that you weren't friends with or didn't know. So it wasn't like we spent all our time together, but I think it was healthy, to be honest.
Yeah.
In terms of in general, do I usually spend all my time with people that I'm close with? I would say that I do kind of like. With friends, more so. With partners, I have in the past, but it's not necessarily a preference. But I think that I'm a pretty social person, but I don't really like a lot of people. So when I do want to do something, I reach out to my friends, and I regularly want to do things because I'm extroverted. What about you?
Yeah, I feel like this is something that we also connected on was that we don't like a lot of people and we don't feel like we can actually connect with a lot of people on a deeper level because we're just so
Hmm.
different and we're just so quirky. No. But I mean, kind of, but not in like a
Kind of.
cringy way.
Deeper
But
than most, I think.
yeah, I feel like we would ask people the sorts of questions that other people had literally never considered before. Like they would
Hmm.
just be like, "Oh my God, that's such an interesting question. I've never thought about that." And we were just like, we think about that like actually every day.
Hmm.
Like, what do you mean you've never thought about that before? That's insane. It's like
Hmm.
impossible to comprehend. But yeah, so I think both of us are kind of that way in that we seem pretty aloof and like we don't really give a shit about most people. But then when we do like someone, we're like, oh my God, you're such an amazing person. Like, I can learn so much from you. We should spend all day together and like
Hmm.
talk about all these things and do all these things and blah blah blah. And yeah, we did have a lot of shared interests. Like obviously just being on a sports team together means that you spend literally every day together because we
Yeah.
were always practicing together and then like we would go and eat at the dining hall with our team and you were a government and Spanish major and I was a literature and history major, but we did have like a lot of overlapping classes and we both
Hmm.
worked at the Center for Humanistic Studies and we were both always writing papers. So yeah, I think we just ended up spending a lot of time together and I don't think it was a bad thing either.
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I think if someone makes you happy, you should just be around them. Why not?
Yeah, I think it's a bad thing when you lose your individuality. But I feel like both of us are pretty, have a strong sense of self. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't think we really changed who we were in the process of being around each other.
Yeah.
So,
I also think it's interesting that people tend to question that sort of dynamic more when it involves friends, but they don't question it when it's two people who are in a relationship. Like, if you're dating someone and you're spending all your time with them, people are just like, oh, it makes sense, you know? That's how people get in relationships. Friendships just fall to the wayside, whatever.
hmm.
But then if it's like two friends who want to hang out all the time, they're like, what's their deal? Like, are they lesbians? Or
Hmm.
like, even if like it's a guy and a girl, they automatically assume that you have some sort of romantic interest in each other. And that's not necessarily the case. Maybe you just like hanging out.
I agree with that. I think that in romantic relationships, it's definitely more accepted. And I think that it can be plenty unhealthy. And I think that people look kind of curiously, or they kind of look down upon people that don't necessarily want to have that dynamic within their romantic relationship. Like there are people that live in separate houses or they have two separate beds or whatever the case may be, even though they're married. And people are like, that signifies that something is super off in the relationship and blah, blah, blah. I remember with my ex, we did this thing, which I absolutely loved, where we would meet up at his house and like have dinner, have drinks or whatever. And then we would both go do our separate things. So we went to this place like this shopping center. I went to a spoken word that they had at a brewery that was there, and he went to this Shakespeare rendition movie with Denzel Washington, which I had no interest in doing. And then after that, we met back up like in the same shopping center and drove home together. And I just loved it so much. I was like, this is the exact kind of thing that I want in my relationship because we both, it felt like a date, but it felt like a date where we could have our independence and like connect and reconnect. And it just felt so, I don't know, that really stood out to me as something that I deeply enjoyed having within our dynamic. So, but I agree with you. People think that sort of thing is weird or that it doesn't count as a date, even though I would.
Yeah, but then like if you have more separation in your friendships, people are just like, "Oh, well, of course, everyone has their own life and they have other friends and they're in, relationships and whatnot." So you're not going to spend all your time together. And people just assume that as you get older, you're just not going to really see your friends anymore, which I've always thought is a weird concept. It's like, I don't want to not see my friends anymore just because, like, I'm an adult now. I feel
Hmm.
like now more than ever, I want friends around me to, like, help guide me because it's such an unstable, like, uncertain time, like being an adult and or being a young adult and trying to figure out like what to do with your life.
I agree. That being said, neither of us are currently in relationships, so maybe we would feel different with the right partner. Because if you're talking about someone to like guide me, someone to help me feel like safe taking risks and like making risky decisions, maybe about my career, maybe where I want to live, like some people feel, I'm assuming like they get that from their partner, which is part of why they don't necessarily feel like they need to crowdsource it from their friends. And then if they are operating like under that assumption, they might think that other people who are in relationships might feel the same way. So they don't necessarily have to reach out and connect. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it does change the dynamic when you're dating someone, but it doesn't have to change the dynamic as much as people think it does. Like, I don't think it's healthy to be in a relationship and to isolate yourself with that person and not have friends. My ex did that and
Agreed.
he was like questioning the fact that I still wanted to go out and like see people. And I'm like, you can't get all of your happiness and all of your fulfillment from one person, especially if you live
Agreed.
together. Like, you spend so much time together. You need to have your separate lives. That actually improves your relationship, I think. Like having other experiences to talk about that don't involve the other person, you know?
Definitely. Something that I've learned post my last relationship is how much I value independence. And my parents have like a very happy, healthy relationship, and they spend a lot of time together, live together, perhaps obviously work together. They have a long commute, so they commute together. They go to a Bible study together. They just spend a lot of time together and have very similar interests. Both really like kids, including their own kids. And when we were young, they would go to a lot of our sports events together, et cetera, et cetera. And so when I got into a serious relationship with someone that I saw myself potentially becoming family with, like someone that I could consider marrying, I thought that that was an important thing to do in order to build like a happy relationship and a healthy relationship. But you can't necessarily take what makes other people happy in the relationship and graft it into yours, which is why I think it can be a little touchy to take relationship advice on social media, because I am a very independent person and I actually, as I just mentioned, do like having more of that separation within a romantic relationship. I just didn't realize how suffocated I would feel and how suffocated he might feel by trying to force that dynamic when that's not really, my personality.
Yeah, I think
How do you
it's
feel
really.
about how do you
I was
feel
gonna say.
about Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that I think it's really important to know yourself and honestly just know how you're feeling and if a certain dynamic you are in is actually improving your life because like I mean, did you remember people questioning the dynamic of our friendship to the same extent? Because I feel like people did question it, but we were just like, whatever, like, we're fine. This works for
Hmm.
us, so bye. Like, don't need your commentary. And I'm glad that we did that because I think, what works for some people might not work for others.
Agreed. I was going to ask how you feel about dating people that are in your friend group.
Oh, well, the last person I dated was in my friend group, and that did not end well for me. But I don't think that every situation has to be the same, and I don't think that our group of friends were friends that I was meant to be friends with for the rest of my life. I think it was kind of a situational friend group. So even if you are in the same friend group and it doesn't work out, if those people are really your friends, I think they'll remain your friends afterwards.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, that was not the case for me in that situation.
Or
But
fortunately.
yeah, fortunately, I learned that they were not really my friends. But I don't think it's inherently bad. I think anytime you date anyone, you're taking a risk. And most of the time, it doesn't work out, except for the one person that you end up marrying. So, literally 99% of the time, it doesn't work out. And no matter what, even if you make friends together after you start dating, you might lose those friends when you break up. So, I don't know. I've always kind of been somewhat willing to take risks in my romantic life though. Like, I think that's lessened recently though, because I feel like so much drama happened that I was just like, I don't want any drama. I'm just like,
Hmm.
I'm not taking risks right now. Like, I don't feel like it was worth it. But I don't know. Like, I went on a date with someone in law school and they were just like so weirded out by the concept of dating someone in their law school class. They were like, I mean, I think he was kind of a misogynist anyway, so maybe it was really just that. But he was like, well, what if you like fuck a girl and never talk to her again? And what if like it doesn't work out and then the person interviews at the law firm that I'm working at and oh no, no. What if it doesn't work out and I interview at the law firm that they're working at and then they ask her about me and then that person says that I'm a shitty person and then I don't get the job and I was just like, what the hell? Like I was like, I literally asked him, are you planning on being an asshole? Because I have never thought about this sort of thing to that extent. And
Right.
like my parents met in law school and it's totally normal to meet someone in school. Anyway, point being, he ended up dating someone in our law school class like 3 months later, so he was full of shit. But um, I think there are only so many ways to meet people.
Right.
Like you're gonna meet people through friends, you're gonna meet people at school, you're gonna meet people at work, and like there might be some difficult situations you have to work around in order to make it work. But if that's really the right person, and if you really click and you really mesh well together and you're really compatible, then I think it's like a risk worth taking.
I agree. I actually am usually the one that approaches guys that I end up dating or even having had a situationship with. Personally, I feel like I kind of prefer it.
Yeah.
But then again, I took a little fun personality quiz that told me what makes me most seductive, and not just in a like romantic way, but also it helps you, I feel like, understand like how to navigate your career and like what parts of your personality to play up when you're meeting people, which I have a question about that for you too. But um in it, like, it said that because I approach people and like am very seem very assured that I want someone to be in my life and communicate that repeatedly and effectively. So I buy it. You should take the quiz. I'll send it to you.
Actually, I have a question because I know you said you're very blunt and you are very blunt, and I also consider myself to be pretty direct.
Hmm.
And I know I thought you were too blunt in college, and we had conversations about how you should be more tactful, and over time you have become more tactful. I think I've
Hmm.
actually become less tactful
There we go. Woo!
because I feel like I've spent so much of my life like restraining myself almost because I was painfully shy for many years. And so I was constantly filtering what I had to say and I was constantly worrying about like people rejecting me or people not liking what I have to say. And I think it just reached a certain point where I was like, I am so fucking tired of this. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm just gonna say whatever I think at this point. And so I feel like I've started filtering myself less and just
Hmm.
kind of like saying whatever. And I think I also have a I'm very averse to fakeness or
Hmm.
being fake. And I just can't really not be myself if I
You've
feel
always been that way,
comfortable.
though.
Yeah. Well, the only way that I'm not myself is if I'm not comfortable and I'm being reserved and shy. But if I am
Mm-hmm.
comfortable enough to speak my mind, then I'm going to speak my mind. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to tell you exactly how I feel. And sometimes I wonder, like, is that intimidating to people? Is that, like, preventing me from connecting with people? Or is that actually a good thing? Am I, like, weeding people out who don't resonate with who I am on a fundamental level? And do you ever feel like people find you intimidating, and how does that make you feel? Do you think it's a good or a bad thing?
People definitely find me intimidating. Been told that many times. First, I have to say that I think some of that is racialized, though. People have said that they find every single person in my family intimidating, and we all have completely different personalities. So I think some of it is just like people are scared by Black people, honestly. But I actually also am intimidating, and I mean, you were the one who said that I am like outgoing but not friendly or something like that. And I really agree with that. Like, I don't consider myself particularly warm. I'm a kind person, but I'm not particularly cheerful. I can be dismissive of people that I don't want to hang out with because I have no interest in such. And so I think that I can come off at it as intimidating, especially because I have strong opinions on things. And if I don't have a strong opinion on things, sometimes I will still say it very strongly because why not? Um, and I think it definitely is intimidating to some men, um, in my experience. But then with some men, they really like it, or they like that I'm very direct. Or if they do have an issue with it, they'll just say, like, hey, within the past 3 times that we've talked or whatever, you hurt my feelings by being so direct. And so can you bring up the tact and bring down you telling me exactly how you feel at all times? Like, not everything has to be discussed. So I'm like, okay, I'll try to make that adjustment to the extent possible. And then sometimes you just have to take it on the chin. I can't help you. Like, this is who I am, but I'm recognizing who you are and going to try to make some shifts. I think with friends, or especially with like female friends, I have also been told that I'm intimidating. I was actually just having this conversation with my sister. I'd be interested in your thoughts because she disagreed and so did one of my other friends, but I think I now kind of play up different sides of my personality when I'm initially meeting someone so that I can connect. So for example, um if you think about it kind of like a DJ switchboard where there are all these different levels, if you know what I mean, like you're pushing up this and pulling down that. That's kind of how I see it now. So I tend to lead with the part of me that's like fun, adventurous, always doing new things, super curious about the other person, which are big parts of my personality. But I don't necessarily lead with the part that like is super deep or hyper intellectual, because I find that people can find that intimidating, but also like it's almost a defense mechanism for me. Like, I'm really comfortable talking about that, whereas if I'm just talking about things that I think are fun, I'm like, oh, maybe they don't think I'm deep, or like maybe the things that I consider fun are not the things that they consider fun, because I've heard that in the past. And so I'll be babbling on about something that I really like and they'll think it's stupid. So now I try to play up the part of my personality that helps me connect the most. I don't know. Do you think that's a good idea? Like, do you think that you should change at all based on how you're meeting people? Like, I was thinking about it also in a networking context, like an interview context, whatever. Or do you think you should just stay the same no matter what, and who will like you likes you?
I think that mostly you should be authentic, because I think that if you're the real you, then people who genuinely appreciate the real you will connect with that, and they'll appreciate that you're being real. And I think that a lot of people do appreciate that I'm real and that I'm myself. But at the same time, I think everyone has ways that they can improve, which is what our podcast is for, self improvement. But like sometimes I'm in public and I think I don't see the point of like a lot of social interactions. Just when I'm operating at my most natural, like when I'm really truly being myself, I don't by default think that there is any point in like chatting up a stranger at the grocery store or like having a conversation with the cashier or really engaging with someone who like randomly compliments me unless like they really seem interesting to me, but most of the time they don't because like I said I don't like that many people.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like sometimes I can be also pretty dismissive and I'm just like, ugh, how can I make this interaction end more quickly? And I can be kind of unfriendly and I can kind of close myself off to interactions that I might otherwise have with like random strangers. And you never really know where that's going to lead. And I think sometimes I can judge people too quickly. Like I can judge a book by its cover and make assumptions about people based on, people that came off in similar ways from my past that I don't trust anymore. And so I'm like, oh, why is that person so friendly? Like, I knew someone like that in the past who was super friendly and it was just totally fake and they were actually really manipulative. So I don't trust this person because they're friendly. But it's like maybe they're actually just friendly
Mm-hmm.
and they are kind hearted and they do mean well. And you shouldn't just be so quick to judge. And so sometimes I'm like, I really need to like stop being so unfriendly. Like, I need to be friendlier. And I'll like come away from an interaction at a grocery store or something. And I'm just like, it's not gonna kill me to be to be nicer to random people. Like they're not expecting to like, you know, actually develop a real relationship with me. It's just have a pleasant interaction. It's not that bad. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that deep.
I actually have a tattoo related to that, which is from my favorite Disney princess movie, Beauty and the Beast. And it is like the tattoo says chapter 3 on it. And it's from like the little book that opens at the beginning of the movie. If you've seen it anytime soon, which I don't know why you would have. And it is representing the part of one of the first songs where she says like here's where she meets Prince Charming, but she doesn't discover that it's him till chapter 3. And it basically just represents like you never know who is going to come into your life and how they are. We had a girl in our undergrad that used to talk about how the girl that became her best friend was the girl who she borrowed a calculator from in one of her high school math classes. And I just feel like, it kind of represents that idea. You never really know how much a person is going to impact your life. It could just be a small, like, minute interaction, but they become the love of your life. So everyone's a stranger at some point until they're not.
Yeah, and I think it's really surprised me the people that I stayed in touch with. Like the people that I was really close to for most of high school, a lot of them I don't even talk to anymore.
Same.
But then like some of the people I became friends with towards the end of high school who, I was friends with, but I didn't necessarily expect the relationship to continue on. Like I'm
Hmm.
still close to them to this day. And it's
Hmm.
so bizarre. And my mom would always tell me that. She's like, "You never know. Like it'll surprise you who you stay friends with." And it's so true. Like it
Right.
can be really random.
Um, I think when you connect on the basis of values, then maybe it has a little bit more longevity. Um, because I also had a friend like that in high school. I literally explicitly said to her that I didn't think we'd be friends past high school, which she reminds me of all the time now and like laughs at me. But we've been friends like 10 years or what, 12 years? How long has it been since we were in high school? And we didn't meet towards the end of high school, but we became close towards the end of high school. And I didn't think that we would be friends because we had very different like conceptions of wealth. And it was really important for her to be wealthy. And I was and still am an anti-capitalist. I mean, I have like various critiques of things. But like if you push me and say, are you pro or anti? I would say that I'm anti. capitalism, and I studied capitalism in undergrad. I was a political philosophy major, so I actually know what I'm talking about. But we just felt so different about those. Like, I felt like she was really materialistic and whatnot. And so I didn't think we would be friends because that was like such a big thing for me. But she's very open minded and non judgmental. And I feel like I'm also very open minded, including like, especially now more so about politics. And so we stayed friends, I think, because of that shared value of open mindedness. Because I never felt judged by her for my opinion. And I don't think she felt judged by me for my opinion as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people, like, I assumed we would stay friends,
Yeah, same.
but some people, like, you don't know. Like, I think it also depends on whether or not your paths intersect later in life. Like, some people that I knew in high school or that I knew earlier in life, we just ended up doing similar things and being on similar paths or maybe being in the same place. And that, brings you together again later.
Yeah, my current roommate is I would consider a friend now, and we weren't really good friends in high school, but we were friendly with each other. Um but I didn't expect to, be friends later in life. We just and we weren't for a long time. We didn't stay in contact, but we ended up reconnecting because we both go to UCLA. So again, you never know.
Yeah. And then when you have been hurt in the past, like, I know I have had a lot of friend problems, at least. How do you become more discerning and like protect yourself from dangerous people, but at the same time, like maintain this vulnerability and this openness to new connections? That's something that I struggle with because I feel like when I go through a bad experience, then I just kind of shut down and I'm already shy, so it's already hard for me to open up to people a lot of the time, quickly at least. So I don't want to become bitter though. Like
Hmm.
to I don't want to be so cynical that I just assume everyone is a bad person, but sometimes I genuinely think that most people suck. And I don't know if that's a very healthy mindset to have, but like how do you maintain that balance between like learning how to protect yourself and also like being open to meeting new people?
I actually I have a list of values, and one of mine is don't let heartbreak make you bitter. So it's funny that you just said that because we're aligned on that too. Um, but it's interesting that you would say that because I feel like you're an intuitive person. I don't necessarily feel like I'm an intuitive person. So I feel like I struggle with being discerning. That's something that my therapist and I have really worked on for the past 6 months, and I feel like I'm getting a bit better at it. But in the past, I definitely haven't been. I mean, I think the way that I've like gotten over heartbreaks and been open is just with time, and also I I don't really know how to phrase this, but like when I meet someone, they're almost like a blank slate. Like I don't let anything that they've done in the past impact how I see them. Like you could literally have gone to jail and I'll be like, "Oh, okay, what for?" I'm not like, "Oh, okay, so now I'm going to take what they say with a grain of salt." And I think there are a lot of cons to that. It's almost naive to not consider the context of who a person has been before they meet you. Working with my therapist, what I've realized or learned about how to be more discerning is to give it more time, not to rush into friendships or romantic relationships with a person or even like a friends with benefits, whatever you're trying to do. Like, give something, months, 3 months, to figure out who a person is. And because people can really put on a front or even just, be in a different state of mind. Like there was this one guy that I was seeing, which who when I met him, he was sober and he was sober for 3 months while we were seeing each other. And then month 4, raging alcoholism. So I feel like, and there were red flags before then and whatever, I ignored them. But I think that you really do have to give it time. I think people forget that, honestly.
Yeah. I feel like I mean, okay, so I think I am an intuitive person and I think that I can read people well generally.
Hmm.
And looking back, at some of my friendships that haven't worked out, like I did pick up on the signs, but
Hmm.
I chose to proceed anyway.
Hmm.
And I think that's what happens to a lot of people. It's not that you're stupid, it's not that you didn't see it, it's that you saw it and you continued to keep that person in your life.
Hmm.
And I don't necessarily always regret that I did that because I think that some of those people did help me a lot at that time in my life and I needed them for a time. But then
Hmm.
after a while, it inevitably didn't work out. And I was so hard on myself about it and I was beating myself up about it. But it's like, I kind of knew that it wasn't really going to last.
Right.
So it had to end at a certain point. And that doesn't mean that it didn't serve its purpose. And that doesn't mean that, like, I was stupid for like not wanting it to end sooner. But I think that if you like now that I'm not in the bubble of school and I'm really looking for like friends that I can have in my real life and like lasting friendships, I feel like I'm more quick to sort of be like, okay, you're showing your true colors and I don't like that, so I'm going to distance myself from you. Whereas in the past, I would just be like, well, and maybe this has come from me feeling like I'm okay just being by myself more so than I have in the past. Like, I think in the past I was like, well, these are the only friends I have, so I've just got to put up with it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I won't have friends. But now I'm like, I've experienced not having friends, and it can suck, and it can be really lonely. But like,
Yeah.
it's better to be alone than to be around people who don't really like you or who you don't really like.
Yeah, I feel the
So
same way about romantic relationships too. Like I think that I I love being alone. I mean, more so recently, I've been quite lonely actually, especially romantically, but I definitely more so now am since I'm looking for something more serious and long term like you were saying about friendships. I'm quick to say immediately no. Immediately no.
yeah.
As soon as you said that one thing, oh, I have repressed rage. Nope. It's
Hmm.
never going to work out. So,
Yeah.
I think
And
that's a good thing.
I think that can be kind of empowering because you're just like, I know who you are. I know
Mhm.
what you're gonna do. Bye. But you do have to give it time a lot of the time. Like, I feel like people are often like, oh, I should have seen it coming. I should have known. But it's like, no, you shouldn't have. Like,
Right.
you didn't know them yet. Like, some people are super charming, and that's how they get away with it. And it's not that you're dumb and that you should have seen it coming. Like, they have mastered the skill of fooling people. And especially if you're a good person, you want to see the best in other people. And you just kind of naturally expect other people to approach friendships the way that you approach friendships
100%.
or relationships. And that's something I've had to learn. And that's helped me become more discerning, is just understanding that I'm actually a good person and I'm a good friend, but that doesn't mean that everyone else is. And because I'm authentic doesn't mean everyone else is also. And so someone might seem charming and they might seem great, but they're intentionally being that way so that they can like connect with you, so that
I
they can,
completely agree. That's a
yeah.
huge and like very hard lesson that I learned this past year. I have mentioned before I grew up really religious. You can say what you want about Christians, but most Christians are really just trying to be good people. That's the whole point of like trying to be closer to God, trying to be more like God, like trying to be Christ on earth, a representative of God on earth. Like you're consistently trying to self improve in order to be like a kind, generous, loving person. And I think I honestly grew up like not around very many people that were just like bad, like mean. Like there are some like bad people. They exist. And I think that this past year I really like learned that the hard way, that some people, because I'm very honest and I'm very transparent, and I didn't really clock that some people really just lie. They will lie right to your face, and they do so specifically so that you'll give them something that you wouldn't otherwise. And I'm glad that I learned that lesson, but I definitely wish I would have learned it another way. You know, to your
Yeah.
previous point, though, I do think that sometimes in the process of getting to know each other, too, you can, communicate what you need differently within the friendship, too. And if a person does really care about you, they'll try. Even if they don't do it perfectly, they'll try. Or even if they don't do it the first time because they're like, fuck that, that's not my real personality, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, once they see that it's hurting you or that it's hurting the relationship, they'll shift some things. Do you think that the way that America's set up or social media is set up or whatever, people are starting to have more friendships or make more friendships online or even being in these more like parasocial relationships with celebrities and really considering them their friends?
Um, I mean, I think the pandemic really messed things up, to be honest.
Mm.
And the pandemic, in combination with increasing uses of technology, like, I don't know. I mean, my first year of law school was completely remote and it was awful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was really hard to build community. I just felt like I was all by myself. And if I hadn't been able to do track at Davis that year, I think I would have been like miserable.
Mm.
Because at least that got me outside around real people and doing something I enjoy. But like, I don't, I'm not happy at all just having digital or electronic relationships, whatever, virtual relationships. Unless we already have a foundation of a friendship that we developed in person, then, it's not ideal, but I can still feel connected to them. But like, I cannot imagine meeting someone online and like starting a friendship genuinely that way. And like, I don't know. I've also never really had parasocial relationships. Like, I've always kind of given people the side eye when it came to that. Like in middle school, when everyone was obsessed with Justin Bieber, I literally knew this girl who had 180 posters of Justin Bieber on her bedroom walls. And I was like, are you fucking insane? Like, sure, I liked his music, but I didn't give a shit about him. Like, I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
him.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's so weird that people can just project these things onto celebrities and they genuinely feel like they know the person because they know facts about them or because they know how they act towards their fans, which isn't necessarily how they really are. And now look at Justin Bieber. Not really someone to be a fan of, but no, he's been through a lot, I don't know. Who knows? But
We don't know him.
I
That's the whole
just
point.
yeah, we don't know him. Like how can you care about I've never cared about celebrities to that extent. Like I find celebrities fascinating in a lot of ways and like I want to learn things about actors and like I used to read People magazine. So like sure, I'm fascinated by celebrities and I enjoy talking about them and thinking about them. But at a certain point it's like you literally have no idea what's going on. Like people that are like obsessed with Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni drama. Like, yeah, sure, I've read about it and I'm interested in it, but you have no idea what happened. Like, no one does. You weren't
Mm-hmm.
there. Like, you have no idea what these people are really like. Some people are really good at putting on a front, like we said. Some
Mm-hmm.
people, you just don't know. You don't know them. And like I don't even care about professional athletes. And I was an athlete. Like you'd think I'd be more interested in other athletes or like professional athletes, professional sports teams. I literally couldn't care less. I'm just like why do people like the idea of like being a fan is so weird to me. Like to the extent that some people are fans. Like having a team and like being so upset when like your team loses and like going to games and cheering so loudly and like getting so worked up. I'm like, sure, this is entertaining, but I don't really care that much. Like, these people are randos. Like a
Sometimes they're
person.
literal children, and it's like grown man like crying about the fact that a 19-year-old like didn't catch a ball underneath his genitals. Like, all right. I think that usually it happens because
Yeah.
like something gets you through a really hard time. Like I remember talking to these guys that had come into this clinic that I was like a part of running, like volunteering at. They were alcoholics and they were like super sad, and one of them had just lost his wife. She didn't die, she divorced him. And he was like, well, at least I have Sunday night football. Like, at least I have something to look forward to. And I was so shocked by this because I was like, Sunday night football? Like, who cares about that? But I think that honestly, like, certain TV shows and like movies and stuff can get you through a really hard time. I mean, I'm planning on getting a tattoo from my favorite TV show. I actually have a tattoo from my favorite movie, which is Good Will Hunting, by the way. Um, but for my favorite TV show, I'm planning on getting a tattoo because when I first moved to undergrad and I was like really struggling and didn't feel like I fit in, I watched like the full series and it like really helped me. And then when I moved to Austin and I was really lonely because I was working completely remote, like you said, COVID, I hadn't like met anyone. Um, I would also watch that and it helps. I'm not at the place where I feel like if people shit on it, I'm like, you don't understand, it's actually good because it's like a teeny bopper show, you know, about like high schoolers. And so I'm not going to be like, oh, this is some cinematic masterpiece. But I think, especially with musicians or now podcasters, like people really feel that way. They feel attached to them because they help them get through something hard. And so when you're attacking them or critiquing them, they feel like you're also critiquing the person.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can kind of tell with some celebrities, like they seem like a decent person, you know?
Hmm.
Like I genuinely think that Taylor Swift is a pretty nice person, you know? But like you don't really know. So it's not like I totally agree that TV shows and movies and books and like even sports can, well, definitely sports. I mean, I was an athlete, can get you through really hard times and you can really connect with certain characters and people and they can make you feel really validated. But that's the thing. It's like it is a character or, you know, it's someone's job to play this sport. It's not like they don't, you just have to remember like you don't actually know them.
I've said this all the time about Kanye West. And people like I agree Kanye West whatever whatever. I haven't heard what he's currently doing, but the last thing that I heard about was like, oh, we should hate all Jews or something. But often I've said like you have no idea if he's even sending those tweets because I worked for an Instagram activist for a while and like all her tweets were me, all her comments were me. If you thought you were talking to her on Patreon, you were talking to me. And I think Kanye West, maybe not this person, you know, not the greatest example, but a lot of celebrities have PR teams. Like the person that you're interacting with is not them at all. And so I think sometimes you think you have a parasocial relationship or a connection with them and you really are just like talking to a copywriter who has their that's literally their job is to more or less sound like them, so that's relevant to consider. I also think that interestingly enough, like the people that I've felt I have parasocial relationships with, I stopped being a fan of, because I think if you really see yourself as like almost someone's equal, because I think basically parasocial relationships are like, oh, if I actually met them in person we would be friends, or if I actually met them in person we would date. I feel like it's hard to be a fan of them then. Like you can like stuff that they put out and like watch stuff that they put out like you would a friend, but it's like, you know, you I'm sure our friends would say like I'm a fan of your podcast, but they're not like a fan. You know, you're not going to
Yeah.
buy like a poster of me and put them on your wall. And so I definitely have had parasocial relationships with southern guys on the internet, and I think that and I think that um I actually
Do
like it made
tell.
me less of a fan. Well, you know, as was slash am obsessed with Theo Vaughn, and I literally stopped listening to his podcast after becoming like, you know, more parasocially related to him, I guess you would say, because I was like, I don't need to like watch. I don't need to be a fan of this man.
Maybe it's that I genuinely just don't put people on a pedestal to the same extent that other people do. Like I not that I like view celebrities as my equal, because like I don't know, I don't necessarily, but I feel like celebrities are just people.
Hmm.
Like, and and some of them, yeah, I'm like, oh, if I met them in real life, I probably wouldn't be friends with them. Some of them, I'm like, oh, I feel like maybe we could be friends if we did know each other. But like, I don't think that they're gods in the way that some people do, and that's what I think is weird. Like when you think a professional athlete is some sort of god, and maybe it's because I was an athlete myself, so I'm like, oh, they're just an athlete, they're just like me,
Hmm.
but better, you know. Um, but like I don't think of them as these like divine beings who I worship, So
Yeah,
maybe that's the
my
difference.
mom is like that. She actually stopped liking college sports after playing college sports because she thought it was weird that people came and watched her while she was playing sports, where she was like, I'm literally just playing so that I can like I love this sport, I'm good at this sport. I like need a scholarship. And I think it's like a little bizarre that people are obsessed with me. Like she thought that was weird. And I think to your point about God, a lot of times when people, and this has been like shown historically, lose trust in public institutions, which a lot of people have now, including, for example, churches, police, public school teachers, whatever, politicians, they rely on celebrities and cults. And so people become like more obsessed with celebrities. And you can even see that with the president of the United States. Like before he was president, he was a celebrity. He was a reality TV star. And so I think that plays a role also in why we have such a large number of people that are in these really parasocial relationships too with celebrities, wanting to hear not only everything about their lives, but everything they're thinking. I personally think that we might want to reinstate the old shut up and dribble rule.
I personally think that people are so isolated nowadays that maybe that's contributing to this obsession with like celebrities and pop culture and that sort of thing. Because, like, if you're so, like, there are some people that are so chronically online that they know everything about like a certain
Yeah.
influencer or whatever. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you need to take some of that time and invest it into real friendships with people
100%.
that you can actually know, because you do not need to know so much about that random person who doesn't give a shit about you.
Mm-hmm. And I
I'm
know nothing
sorry.
about anything. I got some of that from my mom, even though I grew up super religious. My mom's really into church. She never knew anything about a single mega church person. And people in her like Bible studies and whatever would say like, oh, so and so, whoever, Joel Olstein. That's the only person I know. Joel Olstein would say this and that. And she's like, literally never heard of the man. Not familiar. And I feel that way with celebrities now too. You'll even say some things to me. You were like, oh, so and so. I was like, whomst. Never heard of her. But our social media
Yeah.
also is different. Like we're fed different things because I've done the opposite with you, where I'm like, oh, this person, and you're like, who?
Yeah, no, I think you can learn a lot from celebrities, and like I think that it's good to have these people that you view as inspirational.
Hmm.
Especially if you aren't in a position, or you aren't able to cultivate friendships for whatever reason, your life circumstances or whatever. Like sometimes that's all you have, and that's okay, and like you should try to learn as much as you can from whoever you have access to. But I just think it's weird when people are super obsessed with strangers in general. Like my mom used to say her family was really into politics, and they would constantly talk about these politicians at dinner. And they were talking about this one politician so much that she thought he was a family member. And it's just like, what the hell? Like, why?
I think it's better to project onto fictional characters, honestly. Like, I think going through a heartbreak, I remember one time I was super obsessed with Neil Caffrey from White Collar, and I was like, I literally love this man. And I remember, like, genuinely getting jealous when he started dating another character on the show. I was like, this is insane. But I think it's healthy, and I'm not obsessed with Matt Bomar. Like, Matt Bomar is gay. Um, So I think Matt Bomer, who plays Noel Caffrey, I think that there can be, like you said, certain periods of your life or certain points in time where you are more like parasocially connected to different people, whether it is like a stranger or I think it would be a little better to be a fictional character. Like, for example, if you're like super gay and you're in like rural Arkansas or something, and you're kind of obsessed with this, with Chapel Rowan or something, you know, I think that makes sense. I don't think that's wild. But yeah, that story about your your mom and her family is wild.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree that it can be healthy sometimes because if you're not being exposed to that many different kinds of people, it can be hard to figure out what kind of people you should have in your life. So
That's
watching
true.
TV and movies can be helpful in that way because like I don't know, like sometimes I'm like I just am not meeting that many guys I could see myself dating. But then I think about certain TV shows and I'm like, "Oh, that character, like if he was real, I could see myself dating him
Mm,
because of these certain qualities." And so then I start to think about those qualities and I look for those qualities in like real life people. And so I think that can be helpful, like with friends too, you know?
yeah, that's actually called I think in, I can't remember what like literature, like what sphere, but it's called like a possibility model. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Like you can see, oh, this is potential for something that I could do, you know, something that's literally possible. Um, so I think that can be a good thing about celebrities
Mm-hmm.
and a good
It
thing
can
about
also,
fictional characters.
yeah, and it can also help you get over like breakups or friend breakups
Hmm.
because you're just like, oh my God, well, it could be that good, you know? And you imagine the possibilities for yourself. You know, maybe that person was shitty, but what if I could date this really cool celebrity that might not actually be cool, but I think they're cool, you know?
Hmm. As long as you realize it's a fantasy, I guess, or as long
Yeah.
as you don't act, you know, actually like show up on their doorstep or something. You know,
Yeah.
that's bizarre.
Don't become a stalker, but you
I
know,
don't recommend that. I
just
think it
like
can be same for career.
yeah.
Like you can find people where you're like, oh my god, I didn't even know that was possible. That's the exact thing that I would love to do as my career. Like I really admire them. I'm low key obsessed with them. I'm watching everything they post or whatever. Especially during a period of time that I know the Modern Wisdom podcast called the Lonely Chapter, which is where you have changed and you're different from your original friends, but you haven't like yet found the new group of friends that align with who you currently are. And so you're just kind of lonely in the
That's
middle.
like me now.
It can really be useful to have possibility models and parasocial relationships during that, I think.
That's a really tough place to be in, to be honest. Like when you've outgrown your old friends,
Yes.
but you haven't yet found your new friends. And obviously, I still have friends and like I've met new people that I like, but in some ways, I feel like there's this big void in my life because I'm just like, I am looking for these specific kinds of people, but I have not yet actually found them. And I still, in some ways, have some work to do on myself to be able to be in the same circles as those people.
Right. What are you
So
looking
it's hard.
for? Do you feel?
Just like higher quality people. Like, I just feel like my
Mm.
standards have raised,
Hmm.
but I'm not yet in a place in my life where I can consistently be around those kinds of higher quality people because, like I said in the last episode, I am living at home
Yeah.
and working remotely primarily. So,
Well, like I was saying this morning, it's hard to be desperate and picky. Not that that's what you are. I mean, I think that I definitely like experience being lonely. You know, like people will say like, "Oh, fuck men," or like "fuck relationships," like they don't matter anyway, and I'll just be like, "Can't relate." Like I would like a boyfriend. I'm
yeah.
lonely. um and but yet still like because I like being alone enough that I'm not just going to be with some rando like you said looking for like higher quality, not like in a high value man way, but just like like we were saying before, like immediately no. I know some things that I'm no longer going to accept, or like I know some ways that I've changed. Um, and so I want to connect with a different type of people.
I think going back to your earlier point, it
Mhm.
really does happen a lot of the time. Like, you just have to learn to be patient and to work on yourself and appreciate the people that you do have in your life until better people come along. And it can take a while, but it's worth the wait.
I agree with that. That's a good, yeah, note to end on. A hefty podcast this time, but hopefully y'all enjoyed.
Indeed. So, in the meantime, until our next episode, have great experiences.
Bye, guys.